Hiya, it's Hannah the Artisan Duck. I thought I'd come back today, just basically turn the camera on because I was working with a cane that I've made and I thought it'd be fun to show you how I'm making some of the pendants that I've started making recently. I've made some beads, I'll bring them over to show you, already, and these are the startings of probably brooches, but I thought because the pendant's slightly different I would show you what I was doing. This is the cane I'm using today. It's a pretty basic flower cane. I don't know if you can see it in here, but the petals are made up with a Skinner blend, so they change colour as they go up and around the outside. This was a blog post which I will link to in the description below. I've already started working on the sheet that I'm going to cut my pendant from. I've made sure it's big enough for my cutters to fit. I've rolled the green clay out on a number 5 and I've just started taking little cane slices and laying them on my cane. So in order to do that you just take your blade, and I have got a whole blog YouTube video showing this. I just take my blade, I always use my bendy blade, cut it as thin a slice as you can like that, and then pop it on your base sheet. Just gently press it down and work your way down until you've covered the whole sheet. And yes, it's time consuming. It's worth it when you get the finished piece. So I shall be back in a minute once I've finished doing this step so I can show you where to go next. There we go. It's all covered now. And it's a bit bumpy, so we need to roll it down to get all those little join marks to blend and to make it one sheet. So I've got my acrylic roller, just so you can see, zoom you in. Right, and I'm just going to gently start rolling over, and I'm going to turn it and go in every direction. And we're trying to get so these little spaces are blending. You can see in some places there's virtually none left, and others at the ends there's more. But we'll keep working our way around. Then you can go on the diagonal. You just really want to push the clay in every direction so it really unifies together to make one sheet. There we go. Starting to look a lot better now. You see, it's mostly one sheet of clay. And you can concentrate just on those areas if needs be. But obviously if your cane slices aren't all identical thicknesses, it's not all going to roll flat at the same pace. So any thicker ones will roll flat first is what I mean, and then the thinner ones will take a bit more work. There we go. All rolled out and nice and smooth. Right, the next thing I've done, I've added little gold dots. I've got these that I've already finished. So they've got little gold dots of paint added, and it really just adds to the overall finish, and I quite like it. So I'm going to add that onto here, and all I've got is a dotting tool. This is from Nail Art Set that I bought, and I use it for clay because I don't do my nails like that anymore. So I've got 2 different sizes, and these are the 2 I'm going to use. So the one I go in with first is this bigger one, and then I'll go back in with the smaller one to add the paint. And honestly, it's just random. I'm just going to find a space in the clay and press down slightly, and it's not a big mark, it's just I've just made a dent in the clay and the paint will sit in that. So I'm just going to carry on until I've sort of feel happy with where I've done it, and I don't sort of plan it, I just go through. So you might end up with some closer together, some further apart. I don't know, it really just adds something to the overall finish. A bit of sparkle, which I think is quite nice. Right, I shall be back in a minute once I've done all this. There we go. I've done all the dots. I might go back in afterwards. I can see there now it doesn't look like I could do with one there. I can always go back in and add a few more once I've done the paint, and if it doesn't look quite right. But I think I could probably add dots for days and still not be happy. So I'll show you how I add the paint to them. It doesn't take long, but I've got like a scrap piece of card and I've got my paint, and I'm using this Lumiere by Jacquard paint in Sunset Gold. I'm going to give it a good shake and then just squeeze some out onto my card like that. And I'm going to take the smaller end now, simply dip in and then just add it, and you can just see it starting to shine. I'll do a few more and I'll show you. And the idea is that we're just filling the holes that we made. I've done two very close together there. I'll show you. You can just see it there. So I shall carry on until I finish the whole sheet and come back and show you. There we go, all the paint's in, and I think I'm quite happy with how many there are. I don't think there's any places that I need to add them, but you could always go back in now with your bigger dotting tool, add some more dots and then fill them back in with paint if you felt there was anything missing. But yeah, that's what it looks like. We need to leave that now to one side and let it to dry before we move on, because otherwise you'll end up with getting paint all over your cutting shapes. So I'll be back when it's dry and we can cut the shapes out. Right, I'm back and my paint is all dry. So I'm going to cut my shapes now. In order to do this, I want a slightly beveled edge. So I've got a piece of plastic. This is just sandwich bag that I've cut up. And I'm going to get my shapes, and I'm going to do one of the larger teardrops and two of the slightly smaller ones. So I'm going to pop that on and I'm going to position it and make sure that I'm totally happy with where it is. You want to try and get the most out of your clay, and then in order to press it down, I find it easier to use like an old stamping block from when I made cards. The clay is not thick, but the plastic can make it a little tricky. So there's one. I pull that out and then I find the spot for my next one. So I'll do another one there. Push down. And another one around here somewhere. Try and get the most out of my clay. Just trying to think where, if I keep it to that edge, I could cut something else off here later. Right, so I'll cut that one there. Lift up. It's just a very slight beveled edge. It's not too dramatic, but I'll lift up. I want to lift it up carefully, because like I say, if I can use some of this other clay, I will do. Get my blade, I think, to help. And without distorting it, I'm going to scoop that one up. Just pop it to one side for a second. Got one there. One here. And then I'll scoop the rest of this up, trying to keep it away from the bits that I've just put to one side. There we go, and I've still got all this clay here to use. I'm going to get a piece of clay and just clean off. I always find a piece of clay is the most effective way to clean. And I'm just going to pick up my pieces, because they're quite thin at this point, and just go around and make sure that the edges aren't too rough, although we're going to be hiding most of this, so this isn't necessarily a crucial step. You don't need to make sure it's perfect. So there's one, there's two, and then three. That one looks all right. And we need to make it into the pendant, so I thought I would something a little different like that, maybe. That was the plan anyway. So right, so I've got another piece of the green clay, exactly the same green colour. All looks good on both sides. I'm going to pop that on my tile, and I've rolled this out on a number 5 as well, just smoothing it down. I really don't want too many air bubbles under there if I can at all avoid it. It might be that I roll it onto the clay in a minute. I'm struggling. Where's my roller? Making sure that's clean. And I just want to make sure it's sitting flat. There we go. Can you see that? The first thing, I'm going to position my initial shape in the middle, and then I want to make sure that the other pieces have enough space between them so that I can wrap this like long snake of clay. This is just on my clay extruder through one of the discs. It's got 3 holes on it. I would show you what it is, but I seem to have lost it for the time being. It's here somewhere, but my desk's a bit of a mess for a second. So, put that there like that. I'm going to position the next one. Where do you reckon? About there, maybe? And the same on the other side. Try and make it as symmetrical as you can. Don't press it down until you're happy with your placement. Let's have a look. It's not always easy to see over the camera to make sure I'm happy. There you go, that looks good. I think I may as well just start here. So I'm going to wrap this green snake around, and then we'll use this as like a decorative border. So I'm going to use a craft knife, my messy old craft knife from when I did card making, cut a straight edge. If you can hear my son in the garden, he's off having fun. Don't blame him, it's a beautiful day here. So I'm just going to curve that round and gently press it round, and then I'm going to cut this other piece here where it overlaps as best I can. It doesn't need to be perfect, just roughly right. Try not to cut your pendant. There we go. And use your fingers or a tool if you have one. I've got this little snazzy tool that I use quite a lot, and I'm just going to use that to help me position. You could use like a ball tool to help you if you wanted to, just to nudge it where you need it to be. I did spend some time blending out this join here, just sort of by rubbing my finger over it, but like I say, we're going to texture it in a minute, so it doesn't need to be perfect. There we go. Just, I say we're going to texture it in a minute, so it's fine as it is. And then, oops, we need to wrap the other two. So in order to do that, I want I'm going to cut this so it's like a flat point, like that, and then I want it to sort of get into the gaps, so I'm just going to roll it a little bit here to just make it a point. And Just didn't need to roll it as much. There we go. Just pop it in as best you can. I might have made it too sharp a point. Because you want an even thickness roughly when you come to texture it. You don't want sort of a really flat piece. There we go. It's quite difficult because I can't put my head right over the top to see what I'm doing because the camera's here. So wrap that round, and now I'm gonna. This is like the trickiest bit of it, I think. I'm gonna cut it there, and just not really cutting all the way through it. I'm just trying to get like a rough positioning for it, and then I'm just gonna take this bit off to one side and just really gently shape it. Just point it up, get a point to it, and then just go right around. And if it's too long, you just cut a bit off and reshape it. So that looks possibly a bit long. Let's take a bit off. I'm doing everything off to the side here. If I mark this clay down here, it doesn't matter. There we go. Let's try. Obviously when you roll it as well, you're making it a bit longer, so I should maybe have cut it a bit shorter to start with, but that still looks a little bit long. I really want to get it to finish in this corner here. There we go. So that's first side is done. And we're just going to repeat it on the other side. So make sure that my snake has a flat end, and then roll it just a little to make that point. Maybe a smidge more. And then tuck it in there and wrap it round. And then I'm going to get probably about there. And roll it. And you see, that's all wrapped. I might add a very thin snake of clay just down this edge here, just because on the other one I made, I did need something extra, so I've just got a little piece, and I'm just gonna, and when we texture it, it should, in theory, blend in. It doesn't need to be much. Okay, so it kind of looks a bit of a mess for a second, but when we texture it, it'll sort itself out. Right, so we've got the ball tools from before, and I'm going to use the larger of the two that I used when I did these dots. I'm just going to try and show you what I'm going to do. It's not difficult, it's super simple. It's the first time I did it though, I was really worried I was going to make a mess, but you won't. Just take your texturing tool and we're just going to dot all around this green border, just all over, and it gives like a really cool mottled effect. I'm going to go up into that one there and go all the way around, so sort of going to go down the sides. Try not to press onto your actual pendant shape, but I just really liked how this looked, and it gave a really nice finish to that pendant. Kind of doesn't look like much now, but once it's done it'll look better. So I'm going to go all the way around, finish doing that all the way around the pendant, and I'll be back when it's done. Right, there we go. It's all been textured. It doesn't take long. I find it quite therapeutic actually. So now we need to cut it out, which is a bit of a heart in the mouth moment, I have to say. So same sharp craft knife. I would use like a little knife as opposed to trying to use a cutting blade, because that would be very, very tricky. So just pick a point and you're going to go in and you're going to follow the line round. So I'm going to start, I think, up here into the clay, and I'm just going to follow it round like this. When you get to that point where it starts to get uncomfortable, I just take my blade out and then I go back in at another point and go round in a direction that's more comfortable. And it is just clay, so you know, we can go and smooth over any imperfections. So I've done that bit. I'm going to go up and cut round here like that. And it's getting uncomfortable now, so I'm just going to do that and then take away some of the excess. I went from here, so I'll just take that out. There we go. Take a little bit up. There's the start of it, so I'm going to carry on following it round. Okay, there's a few little rough edges, but we'll sort that out in a second. So there's your basic pendant shape. I'm just going to make sure I can lift it off the tile, which is something I do every so often. Just make sure it's coming up nicely. There we go. The back isn't looking too bad. Need a little bit of clay there I need to get rid of. So I'll go back in with my craft knife and just try and get that little section out. There we go. Right, I'm going to pop it back on my tile, put it there like that, and go back in with the same texturing tool again, and I'll see if I can pick it up and show you. I'll see if I can show you what I'm going to do. Where the, trying to find the best angle, you can see where there's the line there of the clay underneath, and then we've got the textured level. So what I'm going to do is take this tool and just gently, like this, start going across the side and texturing it and sort of blowing that joint together and getting the same texture on the sides. Can you see? It's going to be very hard to show you. It might be easier once it's done. But yeah, so just keep going all the way around. All the way around like that until you've got the edges textured and that seam has sort of melded together. I'll be back in a minute when I've done that. There we go, I've just come back. So I've done all the texturing all the way around and it's now ready to go into my oven, and I'm going to harden it according to the instructions on my packet. I've used Fimo, so I'll go for the instructions for the Fimo. And I'll be back and we'll add a bail and then we can make a necklace out of it. So I should be back when I've done all that. And just before I go, I found the extruder disc that I used for my, like, the long snakes that I put around the pendant. So it's just a pretty basic one like that. Okay, right, I shall see you soon when I've done that. Right, I'm back. This has been in the oven, it's all hardened up, and I need to add the bail now onto the back of the pendant so we can hang it from a cord. I've decided to put it on like a wax cord. I'm just going to pretend for a minute that this is the cord so I can see how I want to hang it. So I quite like the idea of having it come out of the top sides here, and we need to make sure that it doesn't pop up in the middle. So we're going to do a bail across the back of it there. So this is the same size snake that we pulled through the extruder and put around the edge of the pendant. So I'm going to wrap this around, if I can get it, an old paintbrush handle. It's slightly tapered, so we have to keep moving it down as we do it. But this is how I'll form the circular shape. So I'm just pressing my clay onto the handle, and then I'm going to turn this so that it sits neatly around it, and as soon as I feel that that's reaching the bit that's starting to taper, or not taper, get wider, I'll just move my clay, loosen it and move it down, and then keep on wrapping. And I'm going to make one long tube that I can curve across the back of this pendant shape. So just keep going until it's long enough. I'll be back in a second. There we go. I think that's long enough. So what I'm going to do is finish wrapping it so that I can cut it off at the same sort of side as where we began. So just get your craft knife and cut it. I'm going to pop it on there for a minute and it doesn't want to come off. I'm just going to gently press it against my tile because I want a relatively sort of flat side to stick it on with. It's just flattened it off slightly, it makes it more of an oval shape. And now I've got some Fimo liquid gel, clay, which is what it looks like here. And I'm going to get some of that on my finger, and I'm going to use this as glue, so I'm just going to go all across the back of the pendant where I need it to glue on, to stick on. There you go, just like that. Wipe it off my finger, and then I'm going to get my pendant and put it on, and I want it to curve slightly because of the position of where the cord is going to come out. So I'm just going to make sure I'm happy with the placement and push it down. There we go, it's all ready, it's on, it's ready now. I'm going to put a cord through that when it's all sorted. So I'm going to put that in the oven according to my instructions on my gel, and yeah, back when that's all ready and show you the final result. There we go, it's all finished now, it's all been varnished. My bail is on securely, and I've put on a double strand of cord with my clasp. That's all ready now to go on my Etsy shop. I've also written a blog post about it where I've done this one, which is even bigger. It's just a little bit bigger, and it's sort of a longer pendant. Again, same technique, but a different shape pendant, and I put this one on 3 strands of cord, and it's on a longer chain. So yeah, those are my 2 necklaces. There we go. You can check out the blog post below if you want to see any further information. Alright, until next time, see you. Bye bye.